Welcome to the April 15th, 2019 Frankfort Village Board meeting. We call this meeting to order and we ask our clerk, Adam Borelli, to take the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Holland.
Here.
Trustee Clavio. Here. Trustee Heath.
Here.
Trustee Kennedy. Here. Trustee Ogle.
Here.
Trustee Stevens.
Here.
Trustee Trevarthen is absent. The village clerk is present. Attorney Mahoney. Here. Attorney Lamore. Present. Police Chief Barica. Administrator Pisha. Here. Assistant Administrator Cook.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If any of the trustees want to discuss one of the items in more detail, we'll just remove that item from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Keith.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove item I, the Second Amendment to Purchase and Sale Agreement for 7 and 11 North White Street.
Got it. John.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove item C, Departmental Operations Committee Report, and item E, Land Use and Policy Committee Report.
Okay, those items we will remove from the consent agenda, and we will proceed with the remainder of the items on the consent agenda. And we do want people here in the audience and people at home on the television and the internet to know something about each one of the items that we're voting on. So we'll go over each one of them just briefly. The first item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on April 1st. And the second item is the approval of the bills, and we'll go to Trustee Heath, who is the chairperson of our Finance Committee, for a report on this meeting's bills.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's bills total $641,148.83. Included in that was only $89,000 for the wastewater treatment plant. However, those expenditures will be ramping up in the near future as we move on to the last phase of the project. There was another $112,000 spent towards the utility system. The largest item that is in the general fund were MFT funds expended for phase 3 of Stager Road. That was $212,000. There was also the health insurance for $124,000, and then it included a lot of small repair items and items to pay for the comprehensive plan for training and getting ready for the summer season and spring season here in Frankfort. That's all I have on the bills, Mr. Mayor.
The next item we have, Cindy, is another one for you. It is our budget for the year. Our fiscal year begins on May 1st, and we'll go to Trustee Heath for a report on the budget.
Thank you again. Our staff and the Board of Trustees have been working on this budget the entire year. We set goals for ourselves as a village in the month of January. Those are passed on to staff, and then staff works with all of the department heads in order to come up with a budget for the year from zero-based budgeting to try to make sure that we continue to budget conservatively. So what we have before us is the result of all of that work. This is the document by which our village manages our finances through the year. It was reviewed by the Financial Affairs Committee on March 13th of 2019, and it was forwarded to this committee, or to this board, for its full approval. The budget I will describe in two separate ways, because the Village of Frankfort has the general operations of the village, which everyone is very familiar with, and then we also manage the utility, which services not only the residents of Frankfort, but residents who live in unincorporated areas of the Frankfort Square and Tinley Park areas. So first of all, under the government operations, the general fund, which is operations, has included a budget of $18.4 million in revenue and $15.3 million in expenditures. That's a revenue over expenditure amount of $3.1 million. As in prior years, that excess is what we use then to fund capital projects going forward, so that this village does not have to go into debt to fund any capital projects such as roads or other other equipment. The revenues this year are higher than they have been in the past because thanks to the residents, we were able to pass a 1% non-home rule sales tax. That won't take effect until July 1st of this year, and we probably won't see the revenue until the fall, but we still have a $2 million higher than other years' sales tax included in that revenue stream. That sales tax will then be used for additional police officers as well as personnel enhancements related to building and developmental services. In fact, in this budget, we have 4 new police officer positions as well as a school resource officer, which has been something that we've talked about, someone who will help with the 157C school district. The capital fund, again for general operations, is expected to spend $4.6 million. And all of this funding comes mainly from the excess of normal revenues over expenditures through the years. The largest item budgeted in capital for this year is the street resurfacing project. We've talked about this over the last year or so, where we used to spend $400,000 or $500,000 a year, and then as we've studied the streets and the age of our subdivisions, we've realized that we have to really up that amount. It was $1 million last year. It's $2.2 million this year, so there is actually quite a bit of street resurfacing work which will be done this year. Also included in the capital fund are community enhancements, development incentives, public works, police vehicles, and equipment. It's one thing you hire a police officer, but you also have to outfit them, and that's an expensive proposition. Also, a Pfeiffer Road Trail, of which 80% we hope will be funded by a grant. Also included in general government funds is the motor fuel tax fund budget, which is $2.17 million, and it includes the St. Francis Road project. It's very high this year because we expected to spend this money in the last fiscal year, but because of delays caused by our utilities, we were not able to work on that project in the 2018 summer, so it has been pushed to 2019 summer. Do we have a graphic that we can show about pie charts? And no one has that? It was up a minute ago. It was up, okay. Let me move on to the utility department then. As I mentioned, the utility department is completely separate from general operations. Our staff works very accurately in segregating all of the revenues and expenses that are related to the sewer and water operations from that of the rest of the village. The utility operating budget is proposed to be $11.8 million in revenue with $6.8 million in expenses. All of that excess of revenue over expenses goes to fund all of the capital projects that occur that are related to a utility department. That's not only our huge wastewater treatment plant, but it's things like water towers and purification projects, everything that you see that's involved in the delivery of fresh water to the village and the taking back of bad water. At the end of the year, we will transfer that excess from the utility department, and it will pay for that capital as well as the debt and financing expenses that we will now have as we repay the Illinois EPA loan that's associated with our wastewater treatment project. I see this chart is back up again. What I really wanted to highlight to all of the residents here is if you look at the revenues from the village, by far the largest source is sales tax. It was before, and it certainly will continue to be even larger now that we have that 1% additional tax, which will be paid for by not only residents, but primarily from residents that are coming outside of the village to spend money in our stores. That sales tax is $7.6 million, 41%. Other parts of this are the property tax, charges for services, our share of income tax that's forwarded to us from the state, and other items. Do we have that other pie chart too? On expenditures? Yes. And if you look at expenses, once again, the by far largest percentage is for police protection. Not that we don't need it, John. And in fact, everybody wants it. I know when I moved into the village of Frankfort, one of the reasons I moved into the village is because of the police protection that was afforded to me. And we do have an outstanding staff, but it is expensive to have police protection. And then you can see the other areas are public works, general government, and garbage disposal. I'm done with those charts. Thank you very much for putting them back up again. The last item that I will highlight is the fiduciary fund. This is the Frankfort Police Pension Fund. This is a trust fund. Resources are held in trust for members and cannot be used to pay for other village programs. The police pension laws are determined by the state of Illinois, and they, along with actuaries, determine how much we need to fund that. The additions and deductions are budgeted at $1.6 million and then $1.0 million respectively. Finally, I'll just make the comment that Frankfort continues to budget conservatively, both in terms of our expected revenues and our expenditures. Typically, later on this summer, when we have the final amounts for revenue and expenditures, we'll find that our village staff has not spent as much as was budgeted during the year. So we will have this continuing excess that we can then put towards capital projects so we don't have to go into any bonded debt. On this agenda is just a recommendation to approve the Village of Frankfort municipal budget for this coming fiscal year. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Heath. Then we have 2 items from our Plan Commission, and we'll go to our Plan Commission liaison, Trustee Stevens, for a report on those.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, as you said, we have 2 items from our Plan Commission. The first one concerns the Mall Chief first floor building material variance. The applicants are proposing to construct a 256 square foot addition to the rear of their existing home located at 228 Hamilton Avenue within the Brookside 2 subdivision. Now, the existing home is nonconforming with respect to the first floor masonry requirement, and the applicants are proposing to finish the addition in cedar siding to match the existing home. And as such, the applicants are requesting the granting of a first floor building material variance to accommodate the construction. They did make an effort to go out and find bricks that would match the existing seat wall that's at the house, but it's an older home and they haven't been able to find a brick that would match it. And so it would probably do more harm if they found a brick and that wouldn't match as well. So that's why we're going ahead and approving this cedar siding for the home. This was reviewed at our March 28th Plan Commission meeting, and it was forwarded to this board by a unanimous approval. And the second item tonight is a plat of abrogation. The applicant owns property at 8795 Chillerton Court in the Stone Creek subdivision and is preparing to begin construction of a new single-family home at that site. Now, the original property was platted with a 15-foot wide temporary emergency easement connecting the court to Pfeiffer Road. Now, this easement was necessary as at the time of the plat approval, the subdivision only had one access, and our requirements call for at least 2 accesses into the subdivision. Since that time, they have met that requirement, and so in order to accommodate the construction of the proposed home, they are requesting approval of a plat of abrogation, removing the temporary easement on the property. This again was reviewed at our March 28th Plan Commission meeting, and it was unanimous approval. I will make one other comment about our first item tonight, the first floor building material. This item was reviewed by the Brookside 2 Subdivision Homeowners Association, and they approved it unanimously as well. Mr. Mayor, that concludes the 2 items from our Plan Commission this evening.
Thank you, Mike. And now we have an interesting item, a collective bargaining agreement approval with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and we'll go to Trustee Clavio for a report on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Frankfort and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 Public Division, is before the board this evening for approval. This is a 4-year agreement that sets forth rates of pay, hours of employment, fringe benefits, and other employment conditions for employees covered by the contract. Before us tonight is to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Frankfort and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 Public Division. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. And those are, no, we have one more, a release of executive session minutes, and we'll go back to Trustee Heath for a report on that.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is a routine item that happens relatively often during the years. We have executive session meetings that take place after the open public meetings, and it's by state law very regulated as to what we can discuss in those meetings. For example, personnel matters are discussed in those confidential meetings. Minutes are taken, and periodically there is a review that is conducted. This was conducted with our attorneys, the administrator of the village clerk, plus all of the trustees and mayor looked at these to determine whether any of these minutes can now be released publicly. So we do have the ability with the Open Meetings Act for the government bodies to destroy the verbatim records of closed sessions, but not less than 18 months after the completion of the closed executive session. So before us, we have this resolution authorizing the release of Village of Frankfort executive session minutes from 2018 as presented, and the destruction of audio recordings of Village of Frankfort executive session meetings held prior to September 30th of 2017. That's all.
Thank you, Cindy. And those are all of the items on our consent agenda this evening. So before we vote on them, is there anyone in the audience who wanted to comment to this board about any of these particular items? Hearing none, any questions or comments from the trustees? Then we'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Trustee Clavio? Yes. Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, we'll go to Trustee Ogle for the Departmental Operations Committee report.
Mayor, a point of order there. I don't think we had a motion in a second for the consent agenda.
Oh, well,
Unless
you
I was
can't
missing
have
that.
everything. We better have a motion first before we vote on it. That's a good idea.
Trustee
I'll
Stevens?
make that motion, Mayor.
And I'll second that.
Oh, there we go. So do we need to re-vote? Yeah, we better re-vote. Adam, let's re-vote on
Thanks,
that.
Trustee
because
Ogle.
maybe the motion
Trustee
changed.
Clavio.
Who knows?
What if my vote changes?
Yeah.
The second one counts. Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we're in order.
Yeah.
And Trustee Ogle, the Operations Committee reports.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Since we did pull this off the consent agenda, we have 3 items on here, so I think we may need to vote on them individually. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, George. Hannah. Okay, the first item on here is related to the Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant. It's Project 6, and this is a change order, just change order number 5. And at the April 10th meeting of the Departmental Operations Committee, we reviewed a series of change orders related to that. And there's six of them total, and it'll be a net increase of $39,478.37. And it also would include a 3-day addition to the current contract with Williams Brothers. Now, there are some items in the memorandum. We have multiple engineering firms that work on this $60 million project, and one that sort of oversees all of them. And the memorandum from then, there were some things that we will probably go back to address afterwards with some of these. Some of the contractors went forward with things that, in the notes that they hadn't gotten review or approval on yet. So there may be some recapture of some of these things. The motion on this one, though, and also with the extension on the weather, this was mostly January during the polar vortex. It was both minus 50 degrees, unsafe to have the workers out there, so a rather natural accommodation for us to extend those 3 days on the contract. So this first motion is to accept the recommendation of the Departmental Operations Committee and adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement amendment with Williams Brothers Construction, approving change order number 5, which are work change directives number 36 through 41, and 1 additional time extension totaling 3 calendar days associated with this project for the regional wastewater treatment improvements, parts A and B, to reflect a net increase of $39,478.37, resulting in a revised contract price of $20,714,420.53 as part of the wastewater consolidation program, which is IEP A SRF loan L17-5388.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
We have a motion by trustee Ogle and a second by trustee Stevens. Is there any discussion?
I know you're looking to me since I pulled it off. I really don't have a discussion point. Mine is more of a procedural thing. Since I was not in attendance at the last committee meeting when we discussed a lot of this stuff, I don't feel comfortable voting one way or the other, so I just need to abstain.
We'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Trustee Clavio. Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, the next item was the material storage area, the paving project, and this is a bid approval. And at 100 Sangmeister Road, there were 8 bid proposals submitted for the paving of a material storage area. The Oak Lawn Paving was the responsive low bidder in the amount of $33,000 for the paving project. And so the motion is to accept the recommendation of the Departmental Operations Committee and adopt a resolution awarding a contract to Oak Lawn Blacktop Paving Company, Inc. for the material storage area paving project located at 100 Sangmeister Road in the amount of $33,000.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by trustee Ogle and a second by trustee Heath. Is there any discussion on that? And anyone in the audience, if you want to say something to the board before we vote, feel free to just wave your hand and I'll recognize you. But we'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Trustee Clavio?
Abstain.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens? Motion carried.
The last item on this one is very exciting. It is the disposal of a surplus vehicle. It's a 2004 International 7400 dump truck. It's no longer in use by the village due to mechanical issues. It's 15 years old, which is pretty much, we do try to plan our capital budgets to be replacing these. And it does get cannibalized for parts. We use them as much as we can, and then they're taken to auction. So the motion is to accept the recommendation of the Departmental Operations Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance authorizing the disposal of a surplus vehicle via public auto auction.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Motion by trustee Ogle and a second by trustee Stevens. Now, somebody should speak up. This is a real cream puff of a vehicle. You may want this thing. We'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Trustee Clavio? Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy? Yes. Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
That's all I have from the Departmental Operations Committee, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And then we had some items from the Land Use and Policy Committee, and we'll go to trustee Kennedy for those items.
Thank you very much, Mayor. At our April 10th meeting, Rob Pisha, the village administrator, had brought to the committee some changes to our personnel and general safety manual. And we have 4 of them here tonight that I just want to mention briefly, and then I'll prepare a motion. The first one is regarding retirement and voluntary separation incentive. And this section of the personnel manual authorizes the payment of a portion of unused sick time upon separation or death, and to maintain parity with changes in the 2019 collective bargaining agreement that Trustee Clavio had mentioned. The staff proposed to change eligibility for this benefit to require a minimum of 20 years of service. Another section is regarding leave and accommodations, and changes to this policy manual section provides language for employees who require accommodations for pregnancy, childbirth, and related conditions. Next, the village does have a tuition reimbursement program in place, and we looked at that, and the committee considered updates to this part of the manual, and the current tuition reimbursement policy is going to be a little bit more restrictive in regards to the grades that you get and the money that employees would get for continuing education. And the final item for this policy manual change was in regards to tobacco. Electronic cigarettes and vaping items were added to the section of the manual for personnel, making it prohibitive for them on village property or in village vehicles to take part in those items, such as vaping and electronic cigarettes, while they're working for the village of Frankfort. So I would be glad to make a motion to accept the Land Use and Policy Committee recommendation and approve these revisions to sections 10.06, 11.07, 14.03, and 14.10 of the Village of Frankfort Personnel and General Safety Manual.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Kennedy and a second by Trustee Heath. Is there any discussion on those? Go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio?
Abstain.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next item that was discussed at that meeting, which is before us here tonight, is three really neat items. We have financial policies and procedures that the village has been following for years, and we actually took a look at those. We've got them written down, and I commend staff for the amount of time, effort, and energy that Jenny Booth and Rob Pisha put in to protect the taxpayers of Frankfort. And we discussed these policies, and these new policies were presented by Jenny Booth to formalize our current village practice, which includes a revenue and cash management policy, which applies to all revenue collected, except where state and federal law supersedes that, as well as a purchasing policy, which provides staff with guidelines for the acquisition of goods and services, and lastly, the debt management policy, which sets forth guidelines for the financing of capital projects and infrastructure. And in summary, that policy states that really we do not want to go into debt, and if we were, we would need board approval as well as letting the taxpayers know of such things. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the Land Use and Policy Committee recommendation and adopt the revenue and cash management, purchasing, and debt management policies and procedures.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Kennedy, a second by Trustee Stevens. Any discussion on those issues? And we'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio?
Abstain.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
The final item is a complex one, and it's in regards to a topic that we discussed on ordinance number 2030, adopted by the village board back in October of 2003, providing a developer called Blue Danube Properties, Inc., and this developer is the developer of Candle Creek subdivision. We provided that developer the right to recapture certain costs relating to the widening and improvement of St. Francis Road. And the committee reviewed proposed agreements that would result in the village obtaining an easement for a segment of the planned Hickory Creek Bicycle Trail, payment by the village to Blue Danube in the amount of $63,000, with an additional $35,000 in permit credits afforded to Blue Danube, and then the release of one property owner from the 2003 recapture agreement. And this is an agreement, again, that we've worked with our legal counsel on. So again, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Land Use and Policy Committee recommendation and authorize approval of an agreement between the Village of Frankfort and FLEC, and an agreement between the Village of Frankfort, FLEC, and Blue Danube Properties, Inc., concurrently as presented, and issue concurrently a letter formally acknowledging the acceptance date of the St. Francis Road improvements and the documented actual cost under the 2003 recapture agreement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Kennedy, a second by Trustee Heath. Any comments from the board on this issue? Go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio?
Abstain.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And that's it, right, Bob?
I think that's it for me, Mayor.
Perfect. Then we now have one other item that was taken off the consent agenda, and that's the Second Amendment to Purchase and Sale Agreement at 7 and 11 North White Street. And why don't we go to Trustee Ogle for, did somebody else handle that?
Trustee Clavio, Mayor.
Oh, well then we'll go to Trustee Clavio.
All right.
Perfect.
Whatever works. Before us tonight, Mr. Mayor, is a second amendment to the purchase and sale agreement for 7 and 11 North White Street. SDW Investments LLC, as you know, entered into a purchase and sale agreement with the village on July 23rd, 2018 for the property located at 7 and 11 North White Street. This agreement was amended the first time on November 19th, 2018, extending the dates for specific performance and completion. SDW has not fulfilled those timeframes and has requested a second extension at this time. Presented before the board this evening is consideration of a second amendment extending the specified performance completion dates 126 days. And I don't know if you wanted to have a discussion before we make a motion or not, because I know there's some questions out there.
Yeah, well, at this point, yes. I'd like to make
Trustee Keith Ogle removed it, so why don't we hear what he has to say?
Right, before we make the motion on this one here too, I did ask to modify this morning and remove it there. This is not a piece of private property. This is a sale and development of taxpayer property, and I believe that a high level of transparency and additional review in open meetings and the full view of the public is warranted on this one. I would like to see this project proceed, and I'm in favor of granting this second extension, but I would make the alternate motion that we make this for 63 days instead of the, I believe, 126 days that was initially proposed. And also that there be time for the applicant to explain the reason for the additional extension. The applicants are accountants, and today is April 15th. The deadline for filing your personal taxes, so we didn't necessarily expect that they might be here, but this request was emailed in on late Thursday afternoon, so there wasn't time to go through this. But I think this is something that we've already granted one extension, and I think that the public should be aware of the reasons behind the additional extension.
And as I understand it, you're looking for us. We would normally discuss this sort of thing at one of our committee meetings, and
yeah.
we didn't have that opportunity this time because the request came right after we had the committee meetings and just before this particular meeting. So I can certainly understand the request if that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Any other thoughts from anybody? Staff very nicely made 3 motions in front of us so that we can pick and choose. Cindy?
My only question, I guess, is more for staff. Is 63 days, do you believe, a reasonable amount of time to do whatever there is necessary, or are we going to just be right back here again 30 days after that or a few days after that?
It does give an opportunity to go to a committee meeting in June if that's what
Okay.
the developer would like to do, and that way you have time to discuss it at the committee meeting, and then there's still another board meeting after that to discuss any potential changes or anything that would come up at the committee meeting.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
I would call it the shortest practical time for us to discuss it at one of our committee meetings.
Okay.
Bob, Mike?
I'll make a motion. I'm ready for a motion unless you want to comment, Trustee Stevens.
I'm not opposed to the 63 days. I think it does allow it to come back for one of our committees, and they can explain,
Sure.
where they're at in the process and why they need to extend it. It's not like we're having somebody knock the door down to, to build something there. So we have approved the project. It's a great project. We all would like to see it go forward, but I think they do need to explain, where they're at and why they need the extension. So I would not be opposed to the 63 days.
Agreed.
Then we do need a motion.
I'd be glad to make it, Mayor. I'd like to waive the first and second readings and pass an ordinance authorizing the execution of a second amendment to the purchase and sale agreement between the Village of Frankfort and SDW Investments as amended by the First Amendment to extend certain performance dates by 63 days for the property commonly known as part of the 11 North White Street and part of the 7 North White Street properties at Frankfort, Illinois.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Kennedy and a second by Trustee Heath. Any more discussion? We'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio?
Yes.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now, I think we've finished all that business, and we're on to the mayor's report. And what fun. The first item on the mayor's report is Hickory Creek 8th grader captures state title proclamation. Well, how about that? This evening, it is certainly a pleasure of the board to recognize Hickory Creek 8th grade student Zach Lamonto for his outstanding achievement in winning the IESA Class AA 145-pound state wrestling title. So, Zach, you've already gotten up to the podium before me. Good for you. And certainly your family is welcome to come up too or take some pictures. And I'm going to come down and maybe read a few items. Now, you don't have to stay in the back row to take pictures. You can come right up here. See your principal's here now. How about your coach? Yeah, you never know, do you? Well, stand over by the microphone so that'll pick up our voices on television.
All right.
Well, we want to congratulate you, Zach.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to read a few items from this proclamation. And it says, whereas on March 9th, 2019, Hickory Creek Middle School wrestler Zach Lamonto won the boys' 145-pound state title at the 2019 Illinois Elementary School Association Class AA State Wrestling Tournament at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb. Whereas this talented Tiger athlete finished his middle school career on the state medalist podium, capturing the 145-pound state title, and whereas Zach's state tournament record was 4-0, defeating his first opponent in the first round by fall, his second opponent with a 2-0 decision in the quarterfinals, and his third opponent in the semifinals with a 4-2 decision. And whereas Zach triumphed over his lone loss of the season to a Homer Glenn student in the final match with a 5-1 decision to earn the 145-pound state championship crown. Whereas head coach Brandon Egan, assistant coach Eric Hart, athletic director Jennifer Rogers, principal Will Seidelman, superintendent Maura Zinni, and the faculty and student body of Hickory Creek Middle School are justly proud of Zach Lamonto and other state qualifiers John Hackett, Matt Kingsbury, Charlie Nebinger, David Wuski, Ari Zaski, Jackson Zaski, and the entire Hickory Creek wrestling team for a great season. Now, therefore, the good people of the Frankfort community recognize Hickory Creek's Zach Lamonto for his outstanding achievement in winning the 2019 Illinois Elementary School Association 145-pound State Wrestling Championship. So there you go.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you this.
Thank you.
All right?
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations. Will? Oh, stay right here, Zach. When your principal comes up, you got to stay too.
So Coach Egan was unable to make it tonight, but wanted to wish Zach the best. He talks about how much character he has on and off of the mats with the rest of his teammates and the role model that he has been on the court and working with all the students and the student athletes. So on behalf of Coach Egan and the rest of the wrestling team, we congratulate Zach. It's only the 5th year of our wrestling program, and he is the 2nd wrestler in Hickory Creek history to win the state title. So it's definitely not a small feat, and we congratulate him for that. So thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thank you.
And the second item on the mayor's report is the Earth Day proclamation. The Village of Frankfort will mark Saturday, April 27th as its annual Earth Day Arbor Day celebration. All residents and civic groups are invited to join us for a morning of planting flowers and trees and, frankly, cleaning up the village. The event begins at 8:30 at the village's utilities and public works facilities down on Center Road, and it concludes with a lunch for all of the volunteers at 11:30 at the same location. So I would entertain a motion to designate Saturday, April 27th as Earth Day, Arbor Day in the Village of Frankfort.
Go ahead, sir. So moved.
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Speaking of Arbor Day and Earth Day, in keeping with Earth Day, the Village of Frankfort has been named a Tree City USA for its tree care program and adherence to the Tree City USA standards. Tree City USA organization honors municipalities that work to ensure a greener, healthier environment for their residents. And a fun one we do in this community, or we have for many years, we want to support our residents serving in the military and their families. The village board deems it appropriate and fitting to extend the temporary waiver of sewer and water fees for qualified residents or utility customers of the Village of Frankfort who are on deployment for a minimum of 6 months duration. Once approved, the waiver of fees shall remain in effect for a period of 6 months, after which time, if the qualifying resident remains on active duty, and continues to be deployed, the waiver may be renewed. So I would entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the waiver of water and sewer fees for a period of 6 months for Village of Frankfort military personnel serving on active duty in the armed forces of the United States.
I'll second that, Mayor. I'll make the motion. Oh, I thought you made the motion.
Maybe I did.
Oh, you did, you're right.
Thought you did.
You did, you're right.
Yeah, well, then that'll be fine. I'll make the motion, and Mike seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, that costs money. We'll have to go to Clerk Borelli for the vote.
Trustee Clavio?
Yes.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle? Yes. Trustee Stevens? Yes. Motion carried.
Issues that cost money, we're supposed to do a roll call vote. That's the way life is here. Frankfort garners Financial Reporting Award. Well, good for us. There we go. The Village of Frankfort has once again been awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellent in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. That's for our 2018 fiscal year comprehensive annual financial report. And if you ever really want to know something about our finances, that's the report to get. It's much more interesting reading than the budget. It compares many years, and you find out it's interesting. The Certificate of Achievement, though, is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. We've been receiving this award every year since 1989. So that's a real congratulations to our staff and our financial people, and they do a wonderful job, and it's not straightforward to get these things, so good for you. Thank you. Frankfort Country Market returns Sunday, April 28th. The spring market goes from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock every Sunday. And on April 28th, it's going to be kind of a special day. We're going to honor the memory of a lady named Maggie Lindy. She was one of the founders of the Frankfort Country Market, probably the founder of the Country Market. And if you stop by the Village of Frankfort information booth at the market on that day, you can get free seed paper. Whatever seed paper is, it'll be wonderful, I'm sure. In memory of Maggie Lindy and to help celebrate what would have been her 100th birthday. So I think that's very nice, and it's good to hear about Maggie again. And finally, we do have, this meeting is the last village board meeting for 3 of our trustees, and we want to say a few appropriate words to them, and we have some items to give them here, and so we'll do that sort of one at a time up here. And of course it comes with mixed emotions. It's exciting for them to move on to other things, but we're going to have a loss here, a loss of a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of expertise, and we will look forward to, at our next meeting, bringing new people in, and frankly some young people in to these positions, and that will be fun indeed for our community. So it's part of a process, it's part of what happens in governments. And so, Bob, how about you just coming on over here
Oh, thanks.
And what we have for you is a picture and a sort of a plaque clock. I don't know what you would call it. It's a plaque, but it's a clock, and seems very appropriate. And the photograph, Bob, and the picture shows the old Plank Road Trail. And one of the things that you had always supported and always worked to make sure we were putting away the right amount of money to maintain the trail properly and such was to watch out for the old Plank Road Trail. Now that sort of fits into Bob's mantra on the board, that he was always concerned about financial issues and especially spending. For all of our taxpayers, we had a true watchdog of the public's money in Bob for all the time he worked on the board. And Bob actually started back in 2008 when he became a village clerk here. And so 2008 until this year, 2019, it's been a while, 11 years. And this is the picture that we had done for you.
Beautiful.
And maybe you can show that to the people out here. And it just seemed fitting.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then we also have your clock, and the clock is like a clock. It says Village of Frankfort. Robert J. Kennedy, Village Clerk, Village Trustee, 2008 to 2019. Thank you for your dedicated service.
Thank you. Thank you.
In addition, this is Mike Stevens' last meeting. He brought a lot of family members, so that's kind of fun too. But Mike, the picture that we chose for you is of the market. I don't think there was a Sunday that you weren't at the market over the last many years. And Mike started back again in 2008 with the village board. So it's been 11 years, is that right? I think that's
correct,
right.
Mayor.
I'll bet you know when it was. But Mike, this is the picture that we chose for you.
Beautiful.
And Mike had a lot of contributions to the country market, to our farmers market in the village. He worked very closely with the original manager there, Merle Marksman, and to make that thing work right, and it was appreciated.
Thank you, Mayor.
It was very much appreciated. I will certainly miss Mike's very thoughtful way of deliberating and discussing various issues at committee meetings, and just your whole thought process, Mike, is very much appreciated, the way you operated here.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, also, a clock. Oh, my. Well, Cindy, yours is busted.
The clock stopped.
You're not done.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Cindy, Trustee Heath and I ran on the same ballot 20 years ago in April. And I can assure you that Trustee Heath beat me by a substantial amount. We ran again 4 years later. And while we were friends and we ran, you're still running along with other people. In our kind of government, you vote for 3. And once again, Trustee Heath was solidly ahead of me. So the one person I know who can beat me any time is Trustee Heath. Cindy, while she's been on the board for this 20 years, has been very active in the Financial Affairs Committee and our finances. Cindy has a background in that sort of thing with a master's in business administration from the University of Chicago. But some of the things the public, I don't think, has any idea that Cindy did. is she was our liaison, our representative to the 911 center. Now this was an enormously time-consuming position. The police, there's something about police that they can just take all your time, they take your money, they're unbelievable. But they're very needed, and it's very important. But Cindy represented our community well, and frankly, represented the people of Lincoln Way very well on this 911 system. And she's done a lot of extra work as we've been required by the state to consolidate our 911 system with others. So that's very exciting. One place where I discovered that almost everybody, and what's really kind of fun, these people are all voting age now, or lots of them from 20 years ago easily. Trustee Heath has handled Student Government Day at the middle school. And she has been, I don't know, you create a curriculum. You work with a teacher at the school. She would come in and explain the different forms of government. Why in the world do we have school districts, park districts, library districts, fire districts, and that they're really all different governments, and they have slightly different boundaries, or they may have extremely different borders. But Cindy gets the idea across and spends a lot of time in that, but that's nothing compared to the time that she spent with 157C on all things music, and the high school district too. But Cindy, what we had for you is one of the things I didn't even mention, is that Cindy every year has volunteered on with the Chamber of Commerce for Fall Fest. Her whole family has been up to their elbows in Fall Fest in the past, and so once again you've done so much for us. And of course Bob and Mike have been very, very active with Fall Fest, and Bob's a former president of the Chamber. And anyway, we took a picture of Fall Fest.
That's wonderful.
To give to you.
Thank you so much.
So there's one item, and then your clock too, that we ceremonially. Now, Cindy, we have one more thing. Just because of the nature of things, and we have the superintendent from School District 157C here, Maura Zinni, and she's going to come up to the podium anyway and maybe just hand something up here, but she's got something for you. Oh, Cindy, we've got a whole group.
I have a whole group. Thank you so much, Mayor Holland. Cindy, first of all, I do want to recognize Bob and Mike. Thank you for all of your support to our school district. We do have some special words for Cindy. As Mayor Holland mentioned, Cindy, you have been an integral part of our school district and the development of our children. So we want to thank you for your dedication in so many different ways. Mayor Holland mentioned Student Government Day. That is just one very special day for our 8th graders to come and understand really what it takes to build and make a village work. And you do that every year in such a remarkable way that some students actually choose to go that route with their career. So on behalf of Michelle Summers, our sponsor for Student Government Day, and all the sponsors before Michelle, want to thank you for your contribution to our students. I also have Corey Chinaki here and Leslie Walton as part of our music programs and theater programs, and would like to say a few words.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Walton, and I am the choir director and musical director at Hickory Creek Middle School. And Cindy has been a steadfast collaborator with the music program for the past 20 years and has worn a variety of different hats. She started as a dedicated parent volunteer. Her daughter Coriel and her son Tony were both a part of the choir and band programs at Hickory Creek. Cindy chaperoned numerous field trips, helped at concerts, organized fundraisers, served as a member of the Band Boosters, and was a founding member of the Chorus Booster Board. Once her children moved on to Lincoln Way, she continued to find ways to be involved at Hickory Creek. A talented pianist, she has accompanied hundreds of vocal and instrumental students at solo ensemble contests. One of the things that's always impressed me is her dedication to making sure that every single student feels confident and prepared. While most accompanists would schedule a rehearsal or two with her soloists, Cindy would sometimes spend extra hours making sure a struggling young musician felt ready to perform. Throughout the years, Cindy has added her considerable talents to accompany various Hickory Creek choirs at concerts and contests. Every year she comes 4 days in the fall, just when we're getting ready for the Fall Fest, and helps with show choir auditions, and helps coach students as they prepare, as well as helping to evaluate and select students for an ensemble. This year marks the 20th spring musical that Cindy and I have produced and directed. While she started as a parent volunteer, she's continued as a valuable and irreplaceable team member. She's coached scenes, worked with vocalists, taught students to ballroom dance, run a sound plot, costume casts of over 100 students, and jumped in with anything that was needed. She is a highly organized part of our partnership. It coordinates with our various parent volunteers to accomplish the multitude of tasks that need to be done to put on a musical. The outstanding quality of the shows at Hickory Creek are truly a reflection of Cindy's outstanding leadership and her attention to detail. Most importantly are the intangible things that she's contributed to our students and her ability to see the potential in every child. She works tirelessly with students at a blossoming and vulnerable age to build their talent and, more importantly, their confidence. She teaches students to work together and function as an independent team and promotes leadership and spends time mentoring students to coach each other. In short, the kids love Mrs. Heath and connect with her and strive to be better because of her. Cindy builds positive relationships with students, parents, and staff, and constantly sets an example to students in ways to be of service. I am honored to have her as a colleague and a friend, and past, present, and future Frankfort families are fortunate to have this tireless, talented, and dedicated woman in their community. Thank you, Cindy.
My name is Corey Chinacki, and I am the current Chorus Booster President. And in recognition, Cindy, of your constant support of Leslie and our choral program, the Chorus Boosters will be dedicating a tree at Hickory Creek in your honor.
That's wonderful.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maura. Really touched. No.
Thank you, Maura. Well, thank you very much. We're going to miss all three of you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. One final item on the mayor's report. I have received the resignation of our clerk. So there you go. It happens that our clerk is one of the people who was elected trustee, and you cannot be a trustee and a clerk at the same time. The resignation is effective on April 30th. So I will state that the village will begin taking applications for the village clerk position. The state law calls for the mayor to appoint a new clerk within 60 days of a resignation with the advice and consent of the trustees. So that's the process we're starting right now. There will be applications available at the village hall or on our website as early as tomorrow, I'm sure. And that concludes the mayor's report, and we'll go to our police chief, John Barica, for the police department report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to congratulate Zach Mondo on his championship, state championship with that. Great job. 145 is a very tough weight. Watched a lot of wrestling at the time, and To win states is an awesome accomplishment. To go 35-1 is also great. So congratulations to him. Also, great job with the 157C wrestling team. That program seems to have something going well. It's 2 years in a row, I believe, that they've actually had a champion come out of their state champion. So congratulations to them. I'd like to remind people that we have our Coffee with a Cop this Friday, April 19th at the Coles at 11055 West Lincoln Highway from 9 a.m. to 10:30. Again, everybody's welcome to come out, ask questions. We have no agendas or anything else, but we have several officers there. Also like to remind people, of course, lock your car doors. Even though it's been quiet lately, the east side of the county over in Crete got hit just over the weekend, so they are still out there and active, so continue to lock your doors and don't make us a target for where they want to come to. Let's keep them away from here. And finally, of course, thank you to all the trustees that are leaving. Thanks for your insight, your leadership, and your support of not only the police department, but obviously throughout the village. Much appreciated. Always so nice to hear from you guys. Give us your input on how the department should run. We would not run that well without you guys. So thank you very much. And of course, to Trustee Heath, thank you for all your extra work with the Lincoln Way Center. That was a lot of work. So we much appreciated, and I think it's just about done now. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. And now the village administrator's report. We'll get that from our village administrator, Rob Pisha. It's just a tough night.
Tough night. First and foremost, I would like to thank Trustee Stevens, Trustee Heath, and Trustee Kennedy for their leadership that they've provided. They all have a special connection with me. I had them be part of the board that actually had promoted me into various positions, and certainly want to thank them for all of their support personally and to my family during those years, and it's very much appreciated. But certainly I think all of you have left the village in a much better condition than when you came onto the board, and certainly your leadership and insight is going to be greatly missed, and I just certainly want to thank you for everything that you've done, again, for the village, the staff, and for the town in general. Also want to congratulate state wrestler Zach Lamato. That's a great job on winning state. Anytime you can win a state championship, it is just a testament to your dedication to the sport, but it's also all the time that you spent in preparation, and then also thanking your parents, because we know that anything for a student athlete, it's not just about what the athlete does themselves, but the parents supporting them in the background because of all the times taking the practice and doing all the things to help do that. So congratulations to your whole family on that accomplishment. And then finally, just want to remind residents about we get questions often about what kind of things that will be picked up in the trash, and just sometimes people want to know about large appliances or large items. You can put one large item at the curb each week to be picked up. Things like we just had a surprising one was someone asked about a riding lawnmower, and New Way will come and pick that up, but they do ask for those kind of things that you would call their dispatch. They will send a special truck to come and get it. So again, we have a very good relationship with New Way, and that a great contract that we have that they'll pick up items in the trash that to make sure that it gets properly disposed of. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Rob. And now for the village attorney's report, we go to our village attorney, George Mahoney.
Mayor, we have no report tonight other than Hannah and I want to thank 3 extraordinary board members who have served this community with great dignity, great honor, great integrity and passion. And they really represent what Frankfort is all about. It's an extraordinary community. They were extraordinary members of this panel. It was an honor to sit here and listen to you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, George. And that brings us to the part of our meeting we call Other Business. And this evening, we'll start with Trustee Clavio.
First of all, Zach, way to go. Good job. Mom and Dad, way to go. Good job, because it's a lot of work on your part as well. To our retiring trustees, Bob, Cindy, Mike, nothing but best of wishes to you. Thanks for your guidance in the 2 years that I've been here on the board, but elsewhere in life, because you're all very active in the community. But also to your families, Barb, Alan, Aaron, the families are a significant part of this role, and they give up so much by allowing you guys to give up so much time. So thank you to you guys and to your families. And also, we've got some plan commissioners that are expiring and changing too. We're going to have some turnover there. So to Don Schwartz, to Margaret Farina, and to Jessica Petro, thank you for your years of service on the Plan Commission, and two of which will be joining us up here. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Trustee Kennedy.
I apologize. I just got to say a few thanks here. So first, congratulations to Zach and his family. Yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment. Wrestling's not, even though you've got a team and a group, it's you out on that mat one-on-one. So it's a great life skill to take wherever you're going with whatever you do. So congratulations to you and your family. I'd like to thank everybody in the village for the clock and the wonderful picture. The mayor had mentioned the Old Plank Trail means a lot to me, and it does, as well as all of Frankfort, not just the trail. But one of the reasons the trail has meant a lot to me, Mayor, is because all the years I've rollerbladed on it, I kind of like the smooth path there, and many a times the roots would come up on the Old Plank Trail, and I'd always let Rob or Jerry Duque back in the day know, man, can we do something about the Old Plank Trail and get that thing smoothed out, because I'm literally going to kill myself out there, if not other residents. But I navigated around it, and if you've ever been on the Old Plank Trail, it's very noticeable when you leave a certain town, go to another town, whether it be Mokina or Matson on our borders. Frankfort's section of the Old Plank Trail really stands out with our improvements in the downtown specifically, and you know when you come into Frankfort, it's a special quality place. So thank you. I will proudly hang that picture and look at it quite often, as well as this wonderful mantle clock. So thank you. I do want to thank all my friends that have supported me over the years, as well as my neighbors who've put up with the police coming to my house a couple of times every week. If the public doesn't know, we receive our board packets via the community services officers dropping off our board packets, but it's still a police vehicle pulling in the driveway, and they're probably wondering, what did he do? But I had to explain to all of them, I'm just getting the packets. It's all good. And in the end, they do like having the police in our neighborhoods, which is great. I want to thank all the business owners that I've become friends with, all the residents that I met as I went door to door over the last several months. And I want to thank all the past trustees that have taught me so much, as well as the current trustees that are going to stay on the board, and most importantly, our retiring trustees. I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for Cindy Heath. She really motivated me to elevate out of certain circles I was in, and not be afraid to step up and sit on the board if the mayor and the citizens allowed me to. So thank you, Cindy, for encouraging me a great deal. I want to thank the staff. What most people don't know is we have a really good group behind the scenes in the village of Frankfort, from everybody from the public works to our police department to our legal counsel to the ladies who work the counters to our finance department, all throughout this village. We've got 90 plus or minus employees that are really special people. And I wish you could all get to meet them and just hear their stories. But we really have a good group, and I want to thank all the staff for their hard work they put in and day out. I want to congratulate and thank the new trustees that are going to come in. Clerk Borelli, I think it's great that you're going to be a trustee. I'm so excited for you. And for Jessica and Margaret, I'll be here too if I can help you with anything. I charge you guys to protect the interests of our customers, which are our residents and the different users of all our services. Protect the people as best you can and shore up our revenues and watch those expenses, that's for sure. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't thank Mayor Holland and his wife, Stacy, who have become great friends and have been so supportive. It's just a never-ending supply of leadership and guidance. You couldn't ask for a better leader to lead our town. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't get a chance to talk to Mayor Holland, you should, because he's really a brilliant person who's able to have garnered 20 years of experience in this town, and really, thank God we have him at the helm of this ship. And Frankfort's going to do quite well for many years with Mayor Holland in charge. So thank you very much, Mayor, for your leadership and your friendship. I also want to say, don't forget, if you're going to go to a restaurant, if you're going to buy belongings, if you're going to take your family and do something, if you need a car, you know, go to Phillips, go to Curry, go to Silver Auto, go to Frankfort Auto House. Patronize the businesses in our community. Go to the Chamber of Commerce if you're not sure what you need. They're a great resource. We have a lot of good businesses, small businesses. Small Business Week is coming up the first week of May. So please support support the businesses in Frankfort, because you may be actually supporting your neighbor if they own the business, or your child or their child may be getting a job at that business in the future. So we all collectively feed off each other, and we win together and we'll lose together. And Frankfort needs to be a town that stays a quality town, and then we will all win. And my last 3 words, therefore, Mayor, would be shop Frankfort first. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Trustee Heath.
My turn. This is certainly bittersweet because I have loved serving as a Frankfort Village trustee for 20 years. Part of the reason I've loved that is because we have such an outstanding board. I remember somebody from the outside referred to us as Camelot because our board works very well together. We disagree, but when we disagree, we respect each other's opinions, we listen to each other's opinions, and we always only have the best of Frankfort as our single motive. It's just been an honor working with you, Mayor Holland, because talk about dedication and time. This is a full-time commitment for you, and you and Stacy both have given so much to this village and continue to give so much to this village and its residents. You've ensured that we are a very open community with communications. Everyone is always aware of everything that happens in this village. Nothing happens unethically or behind the scenes, and much of that is due to your guidance and leadership. Thank you for that. It's been a pleasure. And staff is wonderful. This town is very lucky that we have such an outstanding set of leaders and people who work here. Chief Barica, your police department knows what we mean by serving and protecting. You have led that department, and prior to you, Village Administrator Pisha, the same way, making sure that our police officers understand that they are serving our residents. They are there to help us. They are there to teach us. They are there to support the safety and security needs of all of our residents. They're not just out there to get you. And in some other communities, I'm afraid that is the sole goal. But you've understood that what this board means is we want a goal to keep all of our residents safe and happy. And certainly, Village Administrator Pisha, it's such a long title for you, Rob. You and Jeff, now your assistant, have done so much to lead us to make sure that we are doing things in the goals and the image and the vision for what we have in Frankfort, for what we're developing, what we're building in this town, how it's built, the kind of businesses that come in, the quality that we expect, the way that we want our staff to treat our residents. You know, we continually get compliments from residents who are dealing with public works employees or utility employees, and that's, again, due to the leadership that you have. So I want to thank you for all of that. It's, as I said, this has been a real pleasure to serve with you, and I will be back. You know, well, and I'll be back to visit. And you'll have a great board because you'll have people like Margaret Farina and Adam Borelli and Jessica Petro sitting in these spots, and those people are also very dedicated to what's best for Frankfort. Before I thank my family, I also want to recognize Sylvia Tavis is here. She was one of the original founders of the Country Market too. Yep. So Sylvia is here, and thank you because it's blown into this fabulous event that other communities envy because our market is so successful. So thank you for being at the foundation there. And boy, I love working with the kids at the school. And now I understand why Leslie was asking me all those little questions over the last week. She's so subtle. It meant so much to me to hear your comments. I thank you so much for everything that you've done and Will, your leadership at the school. Yes, I do love working with the students at that age because I believe that we are catching them at the point where they will make the right choices going forward for the rest of their lives. So thank you for those beautiful comments. I'm extraordinarily touched. Most of all, I have to thank my wonderful husband, Zach. Congratulations on winning state. I only mention that because I fell in love with my wonderful husband, Al Heath, 45 years ago when he was wrestling 145 pounds at Knox College. So, so I know how hard it is to wrestle, and to be a state champion is an incredible accomplishment. Congratulations. But yes, my wonderful husband, Al, and my daughter, Coriel, who's here, have been with me on this 30 or 20-year journey. Coriel was only 10. My son, Tony, was only 7 when I first joined the board, and there were many times that my family had to miss me because Mom just wasn't available at the time. There were times that Coriel got yelled at or suffered because Mom had an unfavorable vote on the board, and and poor Al and Coriel had to deal with that too. So I love you. I love my family. I love my friends who are here too. Thank you for all of the time that you've supported me and have listened to me talk about the village and how much I love the village, because I know you all love the village too. So thank you all, and off I go.
Thank you, Cindy. Trustee Stevens.
My turn. Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to recognize my wife, my beautiful wife, Barbara, of 51 years. She's been my rock. And my grandchildren here this evening, Braden, who's a sophomore at Linkaway East, Brenna in 8th grade, and Bretty, who's in 7th grade. Thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to me. I think when we moved here in 2003, the furthest thing from my mind that I would one day be setting up on this board. I had no intention whatsoever of getting involved with village government. But I got involved with our homeowners association, and you know how that is. You get to know people, and you get to deal with problems and issues, and kind of enjoyed it. I was picked to be on the committee that studied our downtown and what we could do to revitalize our downtown and bring people here to see what a great community that we do have, and was very fortunate to serve on that committee. I want to thank Mayor Holland for appointing me to this position back in 2008. I think there were 12 or 13 people that applied for the position at that time, and I was most fortunate to be picked. And I do appreciate it very much, Mayor. I want to thank my fellow trustees who have enjoyed their friendship tremendously. As Cindy said, we didn't always agree on the issues, but we treated each other with great respect. And that's something that I appreciated very much. And I want to call out one trustee who's not here this evening, and that's Dick Trevarthen, my best friend. And I know he wanted to be here this evening, and we wish him well, Dick. We miss you tremendously. I want to wish the new trustees all the best. Margaret, you're here this evening. You've been here a lot, and I know you're ready to go. And you'll do an excellent job. Adam, you're extremely well prepared, and we look forward to you leading our community in the future. And Jessica Petro as well, who was, with Margaret, served on our plan commission and did a fantastic job. The mayor has a real hard job ahead of him now, trying to find people to put on the plan commission. The plan commission does an excellent job for this community. They have a difficult job, and our plan commission members have done an excellent job through the years they've made. They've really contributed to what Frankfort is this evening. Our great staff, Rob Pisha, who has led our staff for the last few years, they are the people that get the work done in this community. You know, we might get the glory or we might get the grief, but they're the people that are in the trenches every day, and they get the job done, and they do a fabulous job. George, I'm going to miss you. I really am. I've really enjoyed my 11 years with you. You're a terrific man, and we appreciate all the years that you have worked for this community. How many years has it been, George? It's got to be 35 years?
It goes back into the 70s.
Into the 70s. Isn't that amazing? What a great job you've done for us, George, and we really appreciate it. Hannah, you've been a great addition, and we thank you very much. Finally, I want to thank the residents of this community. They've allowed me the privilege and the honor of serving on this board. I didn't think, you know, that I would miss it as I think I will. You put in a lot of hours. You got to attend the meetings. You want to attend all the events. You want people to see you, that you care about the community. You know, you get stopped in the Jewel and they have questions and you got to respond to them. You got to get answers, and that's why this staff is so magnificent, because they get the answers real quick for us, and it's very much appreciated. Again, Mayor, thank you for the privilege and the honor. You did me a great service by picking me back in 2008 to serve on this board. Thank you very much, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. And Trustee Ogle.
Well, I have nothing to say. No, I'm just kidding. I always have something to say. So first off, I guess we'll start with Zach. Congratulations, Zach, and to your parents. And be sure to thank your parents and your family. You may not realize yet, but you will at some point, how much their support helped you, and how much it'll mean to you as you get along the ways. And again, we're very proud of you and what you're doing. Let's do a couple things here first. There were some fairly weighty issues that were on our agenda tonight, which we didn't go over too much. One was the local 150 agreement, which has been a long time being crafted and worked, and certainly thanks to Rob and to John and our Chief Rika and those that were working on this to bring it together. This is all about serving the residents and making sure that Frankfort is a great place, and these all will tie together here too. The budget tonight also was another very large item that we passed. There was a lot of work done through the Finance Committee, as well, Jenny Booth, as well as the members of this committee, making sure that our village continues to go in a positive direction, that we're financially sound, but also we did pass some things, so we budgeted additional resources, both to infrastructure and road repairs, as well as police and public safety, things that were very, very important to our residents. Recently there was another incident where very much, if you see something, say it. Call the non-emergency number. We do want to make sure that, we're not sending out a signal that, we're an easy target down here. We're not. We're going to watch out for each other. We're going to call. We're going to make sure that we keep our community good, and that requires all of us working together. Now to get on to our trustees. I came on to the village through committees around 2008, 2009, so I've had the privilege of working around and seeing how these people operate, how Bob, how Cindy, how Mike, they've become great friends as well. The commitment they have, their honesty, their integrity in the way that they do this. Frankfort is very fortunate to have had them as long as we've had them. And I'm very proud and feel blessed that I was able to be part of the team that we do work on together, and it has been. We don't agree on issues all the time, but it's done very respectfully, and it's always done with the outcome is that we want what is best for Frankfort and the community. Sometimes you win, sometimes your idea, maybe is not the best one, or it's changed. But I thank the three of you. It's really been wonderful. I'm already missing you. But we will have a new group coming on, and that change, and that team will, we'll all work together too. Adam is a tremendous young man. He's ready for the challenge. Margaret, I know you're ready for the challenge, and Jessica will be coming on as well, and she's ready as well. So, final thing is I do want to wish everybody a happy Easter, and if you celebrate Passover, a happy holiday to you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And finally, our clerk, Adam Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Start with the election. 13% turnout, Will County, so pretty low, but it's not unexpected, unfortunately. The village's turnout will be, we don't know what it is yet, but once the results are certified next week, we'll have those, and I'll bring those to the next board meeting. I want to say congratulations to Zach to win state at any weight class is incredibly impressive. To do it at 145 is especially impressive. It's a tough class, and congratulations to you, your parents, and thanks for bringing another title to Hickory Creek. It's that title shelf is getting very full. Trustee Stevens, been incredible to serve alongside. You've served your country, the military. You've served your community. One of the kindest guys I've ever met. Always asking about the family, friends, how they doing. First time I met you, I said, "Hey, hi, Trustee Stevens. Call me Mike." I mean, that's how you are, and always a common sense approach, and not afraid to speak your mind. So that's learned a lot from you, and I appreciate your service, Mike. Cindy, obviously we've heard all the great things about you, and I won't repeat them all, but you know, the one that was my favorite was Student Government Day, and hope to stay involved with that. That's such a fun board meeting. It's such a fun experience. I know the kids have a blast with it, and I hope to be involved with it going forward. And Trustee Kennedy, obviously you're just so fun to watch. So detail oriented. You know, how many committee meetings have we sat through where Trustee Kennedy's, you know, everyone's like, yeah, it's fine. It's a renewal of some agreement. And Trustee Kennedy, wait a minute. Page 87, it says this. I'm like, oh yeah, nice one. Always prepared. Gives it 100% every meeting. We saw it last Wednesday at the committee meeting, asking all sorts of great questions, and a tremendous asset you've been to this board and to the community. Fiscal responsibility, and I will watch those expenses for you, Bob, I promise. I also wanted to thank, this is my last meeting as clerk, but most people probably don't know, there's a deputy clerk who really does all the work. And her name's Teresa Cork, and she is fantastic, and this job would be much harder without her. And thank you, Teresa, for the past 3.5 years. You've made it much easier for me, and you're fantastic. So anyone that's looking to apply, this is a fantastic job to learn about the village, to serve alongside some great people, to learn how village government works. And these last 3.5 years, I've learned so much, and it's really going to prepare me for next month and going forward. Just the level of professionalism this group has brought to government is just. It's unprecedented. Especially when you watch TV today, it's just so different. And then you come here and it's like, wow, this is how government should operate. Just so professional, constructive debate, and it hasn't been lost on me. I really appreciate it. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And that brings us to the part of our meeting we call public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment to this village board tonight? Al, please come forward.
My name is Alan Heath, and for 43 years I've had the privilege and the pleasure to be married to Cindy, and for the last 20 years I've shared that privilege and pleasure with the village of Frankfort. When we moved to Frankfort in 1981 and I started my dental practice, I was seen on the streets of Frankfort a lot, a great deal, met a lot of people. Cindy was seen very little. She was working. And those people knew me as Al, or Alan, or Mr. Heath, or Dr. Heath, depending on how they knew me and how well they knew me. And then 20 years ago, Cindy retired, and virtually the same day, she was elected trustee for her first term on the village board of Frankfort. And over the next few years, my identity evolved until finally I just became known as Cindy Heath's husband. And that's a designation that I have to tell you I'm very proud of and I'm very happy with. I've said many times that if it wasn't for Cindy, I'd be living in a cardboard box on the side of a road someplace under a viaduct. Cindy has a very useful and valuable skill set that's kept me away from homelessness. And again, for the last 20 years, she's shared that skill set with the village of Frankfort. Many people don't realize, it's no secret to the people on this board, but the job of trustee is a very difficult one. There are countless meetings, not just the 2 that are televised every year, but countless meetings with hours of preparation for each meeting, packets that are delivered to your doorstep by police that you have to read and understand and weigh residents that you have to seek out and listen to understand all the sides of every issue. It's a job that takes far more hours than people realize. And for 20 years, Cindy has performed that job with integrity and enthusiasm, passion, and honesty. So what I'd like to say tonight is to Cindy, I'm proud of you, and I love you. And to Bob and Mike, I'm proud of you too. And I'm very fond of you both.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Al. Anyone else? Then, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for Personnel 5 ILCS 120/2C1.
So moved. I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Ogle and a second by Trustee Clavio. We'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio?
Yes.
Trustee Heath?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, this board is going to go into executive session for Personnel 5 ILCS 122C1. Thank you for attending.